And welcome into Pressbox Live. I'm Stan the Fan, Charles of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me is my partner in crime, Gary Stein. Gary, Happy New Year to you and Mrs. Stein and the whole Stein clan.
Happy New Year to you. I feel like it's been a couple of years since we've done this, Stanley.
It has a couple weeks off does make us a little rusty, but hey, we're excited. You and I talked about 3-4 weeks ago, and we said, it'll be good to get somebody in to talk about the Maryland season. And we elected to invite Steve Suter to be with us. He was the play-by-play analyst on the broadcast this year on Terps Radio. Steve, welcome in. Appreciate your spending some time with us.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate it. My radio career started with Gary, so
that's right.
I'll do
2 years I think we spent together.
Yep, what'd you do?
Awesome.
What'd you do post game?
Pre and post game?
Pre and post game. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, and I had no idea what was happening, right? They threw me into the fire. Gary's a consummate pro. He handled everything. But I'll tell you, I don't know, maybe 2 games in, I realized when you're in the media section that you're supposed to be quiet.
You can't clap or anything, right?
I remember that.
I'm watching the game. I'm too vested. I'm too emotional.
Like,
I'm so close to the program. There's a fumble on the play, and I yell ball. I'm like, ball. And everybody looks at me like, you gotta go, bro. You can't yell.
Who's this guy over
That was
here?
awesome.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta admit something. Gary didn't know what was going on back then either. In 2004 or 5.
Not true.
Hey, welcome aboard. This was your first year doing the broadcast with Johnny Holiday. First of all, how much fun did you have doing the broadcast, and how much help was Johnny getting you through your first year in the play-by-play booth?
So I'll start with saying I had a blast. I feel like I've been slotted into doing that for a while now. So it felt like it was time to pass it, like this should be happening. And I just had a great time. I go to all the games anyway.
Yep.
Why not, pay me to come talk about it? So that worked out for me. I enjoyed the road trips. That was cool, going on the charter plane again and just getting that kind of treatment where you just feel like you're part of the team. My wife's an assistant coach at the cheerleading level, so she's still been involved. So it was cool for me to get back involved on the football side. And I mean, Johnny's Johnny. He's such a pro. You just don't know how much is going into play-by-play when you have a spotter and then you have the stat guy and then you have me and everybody's talking at the same time. And Johnny's got to just like take it all in and then formulate sentence to articulate what's happening. And you really got a sense of how good he is. I mean, he carried me on his coattails for sure, because you're throwing me to the wolves. I really didn't have any prior experience of color commentating.
You're being a little too humble there. Johnny is a pro, but you did a really solid job. I got to
say, you did. You absolutely did.
Hey,
I really appreciate that.
I just want to ask you something. We're going to get into a world of stuff with you, but I'm looking at the scores this year. The team was 6-6 in the regular season, and of course won the Pinstripe Bowl 54-10 over Virginia Tech. But it looks like they only had the West Virginia game, the Illinois game, and I'm looking and the Indiana game that were close games. Was your job tougher in the blowouts on either way? Because Maryland had a few blowouts too.
That's funny that you say that. The Iowa game for me, game was tough. Very tough.
Well, you
I'll tell you why.
You were so pumped up emotionally for that game.
I was so you hit it on the head. I was so emotionally still pumped up. The team's 4-0. We're going to Iowa. The emotions. It's It's a Friday night. It's a blackout. It's just everything is culminating for this game to be a great game. And I honestly, genuinely thought they were going to win.
Yep, I did too.
I watched Iowa play. I was not impressed. I obviously watched Maryland play, and I thought if things went well, that they had a chance to beat them or at least make it a great game. And when Demas went out and just the ship fell apart in the second quarter and they gave up 31 points, it was very hard for me to try to just be, an average color commentator, not
Level-headed, yeah.
somebody invested. So it's a funny story, right? Johnny, when I get the job, when we sign the contract, Steve, you're going to be the color guy. I'm thinking Johnny's going to call me, right? We're gonna talk about how we handle this. A couple of days go by, I don't hear from him. Week or two go by, I don't hear from him. I'm like, maybe I should call Johnny and be like, hey, what do you want to do? So I call Johnny. I say, hey, give me a rundown, give me a playbook of what do you expect from me? Give me, how does this thing work? And he's like, don't worry about it. Just show up, you'll be all right. And that's just him being a legend, right? He
Yep.
did say one thing to me, though. He said, if you don't have anything to add as far as value and commentary, there's nothing wrong with dead air. It's fine. So that stuck with me. Okay, so let's fast forward to Iowa. We're getting blown out. There's probably 4 minutes left in the game. And I'm emotionally upset. And I actually don't want to talk because I feel like it's going to come across negative or I'm just going to be too emotional. So he actually calls me out on air saying, like, don't die on me, Suter. help me out, give me some commentary. And so I call him back out on air and say, hey, look, you gave me one piece of advice. If you have nothing positive to add, don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
And I said, I got nothing to add right now. So
Wow.
I was
Darren, I know
quiet
you
for
got
like the last 4 minutes for that moment. But yes, the closer games are much better.
Yeah.
West Virginia was my first experience, my first game. I was amped up. I was probably talking fast, but it was a great game. It was a close game the whole time. So I was invested the whole time. And then after the Iowa game, it was kind of a professional telling me how to be a professional.
Yeah.
And so from that moment on, he teased me about it in Ohio State and then, Michigan.
Yeah, there were some games.
It was probably 3 games after Iowa. He would tease me about my, going mute at Iowa. So I was conscious of it and I stayed engaged, even though Ohio State was blowing us out.
Yep.
I was trying to provide commentary. So I feel like it was a really good, friendly way of him coaching me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't get offended by it. And he was giving me tutelage and it was just, he's just so good. He makes it easy.
So Steve, let me ask you about this team. But first, let me ask you about Loxley. Okay, because when we knew that we were going to have you on, I started remembering your career and going back and looking at the highlights, and they're still there, man. YouTube is awesome.
Yeah.
But did he recruit you to Maryland?
Yes and no. So he wasn't specifically assigned to my territory. It was Wally Ake. But
Okay.
Wally Ake was the linebackers coach. He wasn't coming out to Carroll County, checking out North Carroll for a running back.
Correct. Right.
So good story here. Scott Chadwick, who is on the staff now at Maryland, he's now the recruiting coordinator, recruiting manager. He was my assistant coach at North Carroll when I was a sophomore. He was the assistant coach. So he knew about me. Then after that season, my sophomore season, he went on to become the head coach at Bowie. Now at Bowie, being head coach, he had more interaction with the Maryland staff than my coaches did at North Carroll. We didn't have that type of caliber of player. So when I became a junior, the state of Maryland had a thing called the Junior Combine. Every junior that was in high school in the state of Maryland could come to Maryland and have a little combine. You'd run the 40, you'd bench press, and you do a vertical leap, kind of little makeshift NFL combine. Now, college coaches weren't really supposed to be there. However, Scott Chadwick, who's now the head coach at Bowie, knew that I was coming. He went to college with Coach Loxley in Towson, so they were friends. They've had communication when he was at Bowie, and he said, hey, you need to come watch this kid run. So Loxley comes out, unofficially times me on a 40. I run a 4.4. He says, run it again. I run a 4.38, something silly. I have the highest vert of all the kids. There's 500 kids. So I have the fastest 40, the highest vertical, and a decent bench press. I don't remember what it was.
So was there a little reverse racism there in terms of he just couldn't believe
Yeah,
a
for
white
sure.
kid was that good an athlete, right?
Sure.
That's the
Sure.
story I
I'll
heard.
tell you what.
Yeah. I'm sure
Probably
you could
true.
say that.
He did
Yeah.
a double take. He goes
Yeah.
4-4.
Right.
Can you
Well,
do
so
that
There's
again?
no way.
Chadwick
Wait,
said,
so
you got to
Steve-
watch this guy run. I run. He looks at the clock. He's like, run it again.
Ah,
I said, okay, I'll run it again. So I run it again. So then we're walking off the field. He says, you need to send us a highlight tape. And I said, I sent you guys one 6 months ago.
ah,
And then he said, okay, I'm going to go find it. So I
Okay,
had
gonna
sent
find
it. Probably got sent to Wally Yates' little bin. Wally Yates like 5'8", 170, Carroll County. We're not even looking at that. So they found my tape. They watch it. And then, maybe, I don't know, a month later, Ron Vanderlin's calling my father and offering me a scholarship.
mm. So the reason I ask you that, Steve, is because historically, okay, Loxley has always been credited with being one of the best recruiting, basically one of the best recruiters in the country. In fact, he was top 3 voted like 3 or 4 times. But historically, his record hasn't translated from that recruiting. So my question is, what is it about Loxley that gets the recruits to come to the school? And then we can talk about the other stuff after that. But what is it about Mike Loxley that kids love?
So let me tell you this. It's weird saying this, and I don't even like saying it because it sounds so cliche, but he's just a real guy. When you talk to him, he's not sugarcoating anything. He's not painting you this picture that's not accurate. And I think kids relate to that. So when he started talking to me, even though he wasn't responsible for recruiting me, it just felt authentic. I wanted to play running back in college. I don't have the size probably to play it. I have the speed to play other positions. I should be a quasi guy, but he didn't tell me I was going to play running back, and he didn't tell me I was going to play receiver. He said, look, you obviously can play. You have the speed and the qualities that we think we can utilize. We're going to bring you in as an athlete, and where you fall, you fall. So it seems to me that he's just genuine and honest, and that goes such a long way, because in the recruiting world, it is not like that. Most kids, I mean, I know a kid out here in Carroll County, and this is a long time ago, but I remember him getting recruited by Ralph Friedgen after I had been gone, and he was getting recruited West Virginia, and he's a big offensive tackle out here in Carroll County, and I'm see him at a wedding, and we talk because he knows I've been through the system. He said, I think I'm going to West Virginia because I want to play D tackle. And I looked at him, I said, dude, you're 320, you probably run a 6'8" 40. You're slow as molasses. You're not playing D tackle. They're lying to you. I try to tell them they're lying to you, but they sold him a pipe dream. He goes to West Virginia because he thinks he's going to play D tackle, and he ends up being a right guard for his 4 years. And so that's just a snippet of just what happened. So Loxley, he just doesn't do that. It's just genuine. He talks to kids like he should talk to kids. And for the most part, you can just believe in him. So that is why he's successful recruiting kids.
Yep.
Now, if you want to go to the next part about being a head coach, it's a totally different story.
I want to get there in a minute, but I want to lead you there.
Okay.
Ralph Friedgen ended up coaching you for 4 years, though. The success that the program had under Ralph, and now again, it's apples to oranges today because we're in the Big Ten, in the toughest conference in the universe. But the way that Ralph had the program, do you think that's the highest Maryland can ever really get to, or do you think there's another level now that Mike can take it to? I wanted you to discuss that.
Yeah, I certainly think there's another level. And I don't want to discredit Ralph Friedgen. The guy was very successful and obviously a very good head coach and a very smart coach in general.
Good offensive mind, really. Yeah.
Really good. And Loxley's talked about it in numerous press conferences that he's learned a lot from how he would game plan a team, and he's taken that and he's used it. And that's what everybody does in business, right? You pick and choose good things that you see from people. But we were 5-6, right? We're 5-6, and Friedgen shows up, and we win 11 games. And you think the players didn't change. The coaches that he brought in, and I was going to get into that with Loxley. The coaches that Ralph Friedgen brought in, I mean, he just nailed them.
He got every single one of them right.
He just nailed them. Charlie Tapp, offensive coordinator. Gary Blackney, a defensive coordinator. Al Stevenson at linebackers coach. He had John Donovan, he was a GA at the time, and now he's an offensive coordinator.
Right.
I mean, he had a smart decision to keep James Franklin. He kept Mike Locksley when he came in, two really good recruiters. So he's, in my opinion, he's a very good CEO. He knew exactly who he wanted, because this has always bugged me in football in general, how a defensive coordinator who has a phenomenal defense and gets a head coaching job because of it stops calling plays. That doesn't make any sense to me. An offensive coordinator who gets a head coaching job because he's such a great play caller stops calling the plays and just becomes a head coach and runs the team. That doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm really good at something and it's the reason I get the head coach job, I want to continue to do it. But most people don't. Ralph stopped calling plays, but he hired Charlie Taff, who was really good at calling plays. So he knew who to put in his place to call the plays. Credit to him. So I don't know if you want me to transition now to the Loxley part of that. I just don't think Loxley, when he's been a head coach, has been as successful as putting those people around him and the coaching staff that, i.e. Ralph Friedgen was when he did it off the jump. Because, I mean, quite honestly, the recruiting from when Ralph Friedgen took over had a decline, right?
Right.
So he showed up, put a serious staff around us. No players changed. We won 11 games. We won 10 games. We won 10 games. So that would be 2 years into it. He didn't have any true freshmen playing. No true freshmen that he recruited were making an impact. They were players that were already there. He just had a coaching staff in place that could utilize our talents, and we were effective. Then Loxley left at that point, and then we lost a little bit of recruiting.
So Steve, let me ask you this question then. If that's the case, and he doesn't necessarily surround himself with the best coaches to coach up the team, combine that with the fact that, like Stan said, they play in the toughest division in sports. It seems like they're never going to beat Ohio State, Michigan, or Michigan State. So it's like if you're a Maryland fan, you already start the season 0-3. I'm being a little severe here, but my point is the combination of not having great coaches around him and playing in the most competitive division in sports. How do you see them lifting themselves up in that competition?
So you just don't know who the good coaches are. And maybe the guys on the staff now, and I don't want to say they're not good.
Right.
They went to a bowl game. They had a winning season. So maybe he's on track with backfilling these position coaches with quality guys. I'm a fan of the OC, and I hope he stays. And I'm also a fan of Brian Williams, the new DC of the last two games. Coach Loxley clearly made a CEO decision going into the Rutgers game that Brian Williams was going to start calling plays versus Brian Stewart.
Well, that certainly paid off.
Paid off. The defense was way better against Rutgers, and they're very good against Virginia Tech, albeit a team that couldn't move the ball because they had no players. I get that. But I made a comment on air during the Rutgers game that I've seen more zone coverage and more different secondary coverages in that game that I had seen in
all season.
accumulation of the entire season.
Yeah.
So like Brian Stewart's go-to was man coverage, press man, and then it's third and whatever, I'm going to run cover 0. He put his DBs on an island all season. And albeit they're good defensive backs, but you just can't
match up with Ohio States and the Michigans of the world.
You can't run man coverage against every play. There's got to be a little bit of chess involved. I'm not going to just mano-a-mano beat you every time I'm run man coverage. Okay, it's 3rd and 8. Let's go cover 0, and let's see if I can get my blitz home and my DBs can hold up in man coverage. Not against guys like Ohio State and Michigan. There's got to be a little bit of chess involved. Like, okay, it's 3rd and 8. What's my tendency? I'm 45% cover man press right now. Let me call cover 2.
Change it up. Yeah.
Let's change it up. I didn't see that all season with Brian Stewart. I don't think he's going to be calling plays moving forward. We'll see how that plays out moving into next season. But that's just, Coach Loxley's got to evaluate that. And I think it took him a little too long to make that decision to have somebody else call plays. But hey, you're paying the guy the money. I don't know. There's probably politics involved in that kind of deal with the school. He's the DC. He's getting the most money. You got to let him call plays. That's over my head. But
I want to touch on you with the play of the quarterback, Talia Taglia. Where do you think he is in his growth right now? How much better can he be? And does he help Mike Locksley bring in another good group of couple quarterbacks behind him by the fact that he has some success?
The second part of that is tricky, very tricky, because you just don't know the mindset of high school kids, and albeit college kids looking to transfer. You just don't understand. You just don't know their mindset right now of he's successful. He's throwing the ball 50 times a game,
right,
and racking up all these numbers. Do I want to go there? Or am I scared to go there? Do I shy away from going there because he's there? Because he could have 2 more years.
He could have 2 years, but I'm saying when he's recruiting beyond next year, does Tulio starts to make the quarterback position at Maryland sort of seem like a good destination point for somebody?
You would hope so, and that would trend in that direction of making sense. Usually, universities have certain position groups that are always good. And in Maryland, that position group's probably, middle linebacker, running back,
receivers,
and receiver. So you can call yourself middle linebacker U, receiver U, right? Everybody uses that kind of term. You would really hope that Talia Taglia can establish that at Maryland. And I really hope that he stays for 2 more years.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I'll backtrack to your original question about him. I'm in love with the guy. I think he is a very good college quarterback. And I've watched him from a standpoint of somebody that knows the reads, knows where he should be throwing it. And he makes the right read 9 times out of 10. And there's probably 6 or 7 plays on the season where he made a mistake and it cost him it wasn't just a little mistake, it cost him a pick, and it was in a pivotal point of the game. But if you think about, he played almost every snap, he played all 13 games, and there's 10 plays that he could take back.
Yeah.
That's a really good percentage.
Yeah. Steve, do you think that he did not? Do you think that he thought he did not have a future at Alabama?
That's a real good question. Probably. I bet you there was a little bit of him thinking that he was only there because he was to his brother.
His brother, right?
I bet you there was a little bit about that. And I bet you, if we go back on the conversation that we talked about Loxley, how genuine he is, I bet you the relationship that he formed with him, because he was an offensive coordinator there at the time. He's calling plays. He probably kept it real with Talia the whole time and probably said, look, if you stay here, you're going to battle your ass off every year to maybe be the guy. Maybe.
Right.
I think, and this is how I would probably approach it. I'm going to go take a job over here. And I already know what's over there. I know you can be the guy based off watching you practice all year. Do you want to stay here and fight with Alabama? And the 5 more 5-star guys are going to bring in here next year and the next year, or do you want to come and play and do something? So
yeah,
that's probably where that was. And I mean, it's clearly been the right decision for both.
I think he made the right call. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to touch on something. You obviously you have a passion for Maryland football that's unparalleled. There's no question about it. This isn't going to happen, that next level that you think Mike can take the team. It's not going to happen, though, in 1 or 2 years. They're not suddenly going to turn around like versus Ohio State. Ohio State has outscored them in the 7 seasons, 416 to 151. Michigan
30+ points.
Michigan 189 to 86. Penn State 301 to 119. So isn't the first step that they have to take is really, and I know you don't coach your team to just be competitive. You want to win games, but isn't the first thing when they start losing 30 to 24 to Michigan, a 35-23 to Ohio State, where you're in the game within a few plays? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Agreed, for sure. It's a depth thing. Those schools have 1 through 3 on the depth chart, 4 or 5-star guys. Now, and I hesitate talking about 4 or 5-star guys in recruiting, because recruiting to me, I've seen it. It's a crapshoot, man. A guy can come in a guy can be a 5-star and come in and never see it down. It's really weird, right? So you need to be able to evaluate talent. That's what Loxley's been saying the whole time. And that was been a problem this year with penalties with Maryland. And I'll tell you why. They were very penalized all season. But it came into, it's like disciplining your child, right? Well, maybe that's a bad analogy, but let's use, and I'm just gonna pull a guy out, right? Jalen Duncan, the left tackle, who's one of their best linemen, right? He was very penalized during the season, but he's not a guy that you can threaten to, if you have another holding penalty, I'm gonna
sit you. You're right.
Because the difference between him and number 2, it's too vast. It would hurt the team. Ohio State and Michigan, they could do that. They'd be like, yo, you have a holding penalty. This 5-star right behind me, he's going to start, and you're sitting. So stop hurting the team. So that's what Loxley's been trying to build in recruiting, is the depth and the experience of the younger guys, to where he can be that stern parent of, if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, you're gone.
You're gone. Yeah.
Next man up. So that's the difference between those schools that you mentioned in Maryland. They don't have that. So you have to deal with the missed assignments and the penalties. And so that takes, it takes time. And I've talked about this in other broadcasts. You just don't know the leash you're going to get from an AD. You don't. You just don't. Right? Who knows what, the AD from Maryland was thinking this year. If they didn't go to a bowl, was he going to pull the plug on Lox?
Who knows?
Who
No.
knows?
I
I
don't.
mean, I don't think
so.
he would,
I don't
but you don't
think so,
know.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Hey, because we've run a little long right now, and I don't want to take up too much time. I wanted to ask you my last question, and then if Gary has one, we'll circle
I got
back
one.
to him. But the 54-10 win over Virginia Tech. I've heard that Virginia Tech was beat up and all that, but that seems like the type of game that the Maryland team of the last 10 or 15 years would not have not only won, but totally dominated. Can a bowl victory like that give Mike some headwinds or tailwinds, I mean, in his recruiting that really gets that recruiting up and also gives the players that are still there a lot more confidence the way this season ended with the big win against Rutgers and the big win against Virginia Tech?
I want to say yes to everything you said.
Yeah.
But I want to break it down to I was nervous. Bowl games make me nervous. I played in three. I hated the first one. Hated it. We
Well,
played
you
in
guys
Orange,
didn't do very well in that one.
but I hated it before we even stepped on the field. We're going into the Orange Bowl. Coach Friedgen is like hell bent. It's BCS. We're gonna beat Florida. We were doing two-a-days in December in the snow in College Park. It was miserable. We flew down to Florida. We were having more two-a-days. It was miserable. We didn't want to play the game. We were so miserable.
Spent.
I mean, we were just spent, legs gone. Just, it was no fun. I had zero fun. We didn't even want to go back to a bowl game the next time. So luckily, he learned from his mistakes. Peach Bowl practice regimen was way different. We enjoyed ourselves. We go beat Tennessee's ass. Gator Bowl, same thing, follows the Tennessee regiment, and we have a great time. So I say that because you just don't know how the head coach is going to approach it. You don't know how they're going to approach it.
Good point.
So I'm listening to him talk about the press conference and what he wants to accomplish, and it sounded that he was going back to a camp style schedule, and I was really nervous about that. I was like, oh man, I hope Lox doesn't run these kids into the ground. I'm talking to a couple of the seniors on the press day, and they're not, too keen on what's going on because they think they're going to have an enjoying experience. But it seems like, they practiced Christmas morning and then flew or bust to New York Christmas afternoon. So they had to practice Christmas morning and bust. I'm like, I don't know, because you just don't know. Any team on any bowl game could not be wanting to play.
Yeah.
Or they could want to play. And it is a flip of a coin.
And it clearly was that Maryland came there ready to play.
They were ready to
and
play.
wanted to play.
Clearly came in there ready to play. So
Gary?
that's credit to Coach Loxley. Everything he talked about, he wanted to get the young guys a lot of reps during those 15 practices, and he said they were going to play. And he mentioned guys, don't be surprised if you're going to see them in. And those guys all played. So, and I mentioned I asked him this after the game in our post-game interview. I said, talk about how a plan just totally worked. It came together. You wanted to get the young guys reps in practice, you did it. You wanted to get them reps in the game, you did it. You wanted your upperclassmen to play well and be focused, they did. And you came out and dominated a team that you should have dominated. So from the outside looking in, now it was perfect, right? So if anybody that was on the fence of whether or not he did it right from a scheduling standpoint, okay, you won 54-10. Yeah, I think you did it right.
Steve, let me ask you a final question. Yeah, so when you played, what are we now? Maybe 15 years, something like that, a little bit more. The college game has changed a lot in the last 15 years, and probably the biggest change is the portal. There are over 2,100 players in the portal today, which is about 35% more than there were last year at this time, and over 60% of 2 years ago. Now, COVID may have something to do with that, okay? But the question is this good for the game? It feels to me like a lot of these players are playing for the name on the back of the shirt as opposed to the name on the front of the shirt. And this isn't the NFL, Steve, or maybe it's the NFL light now. I don't know. But is this good for the college game that the portal exists and it's so easy for players to transfer now?
So my answer to that is I'm pro player, always been pro player. I'll always be pro player because I was a player. And you saying, and I'm not pointing you out here, but you saying, is this good for the college game? I'm saying, I don't care. What's good for the player? You only have 4 years to play football for the rest of your life. Most of them.
Most of them.
Most of them only have 4 more years to play. And let's say you're a 17-year-old kid and they ask you to project the next 4 years of your life and make the right decision. We can all dial back and go back to when we're 17. I'm not probably making the right call. Maybe you would, maybe, but there's 1,000 athletes trying to make the right decision for themselves, football related. The percentage of those kids trying to play football and trying to use it to get an education, that part's really small, right? Most of the kids are thinking about football related.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a position where I would go to a school, it's not working out football wise, but I can still transfer to a school, get the same level of degree, and then maybe have a chance to play. I'm all for it because it's just they're young kids trying to make a decision for the next 4 years of life. And I don't have, you said I'm a Maryland guy. I'm a Maryland guy. I was born in Maryland, raised in Maryland, went to high school in Maryland. I played football at Maryland, right? So I'm a Maryland guy. But Maryland doesn't have an allegiance to me. They didn't when I was there. They could have stopped giving me a scholarship at any time. Those were 1-year scholarships. I've heard from a booster from Ralph saying that I could never play here, right? He didn't think I could play when his first year came in, and I ended up proving him wrong, but I didn't have the option at the time to make a different decision. Let's say he had that out for me that I wasn't going to play, then that's just me, a player who's in the record books at Maryland. And if he had it out for me, I would have never got to play. I don't think that's right. Let's say the school isn't what attracted me. Let's say a coach attracted me. And then a year later, the coach leaves to go get a better job at USC or Penn State or wherever.
Right.
Is that right for me to have to be stuck here if I came to school?
I agree.
Him?
I agree totally with you. Yeah.
So, okay.
It's interesting.
If you want to
Yeah.
make parameters on it, I'm 1,000% on if there's a coaching change, you
should all
have
be
every
free
right
to
to
go.
go into the portal.
Yeah.
Every right. Even if there isn't, I'm cool with it because I know how much football meant to me, and I understand, and I get. If I didn't have a chance, if I went, okay, let's say I went to USC, right, as a 2-star recruit, I'm probably never touching the field, and my football plays are done. That's just really demoralizing to think about. And you were coming at me when I was 16.
I hear you.
17.
It puts the onus on the guy that recruits over players. That if he over recruits, he's sticking it to you, and that's not right. That's not.
And
right.
so I think it's going to be like running a business. You're just going to have 10% turnover every year. You're going to have employees that leave, and then you're going
to replace them with new guys.
You're going to replace them with new ones. Yeah. And I mean, if you want to look at Maryland specifically, there's really only 2 guys that are puzzling to me, right? Brandon Jennings. I'm not quite sure why he went because Fanaji Gote, Torres Peck, first game. You're a true freshman. You come in and you start for the next 4 games. You get hurt. So there's something going on there because you're slotted to be the next Will linebacker.
Yeah.
So there's something there. Deshaun Holt just announced 2 days ago. He was a guy that had a lot of playing time at the DN. Those are the only two guys.
Two guys, yeah.
Of what, the 10 guys. Maryland hasn't lost any production in guys that win the portal. But they gained some. The kid from Florida, right?
Florida's good, yeah. What's his name? Copeland. Yeah.
So it's just going to be more. It's just a dicier recruiting situation. Can you recruit the portal? Can you recruit high school kids? And I'll just go back to I'm pro player. Always been pro player. It's a reason, Ralph Friedgen and I butted heads. I just want to see the best for the kids, and I want kids to be able to play. I don't think you can call a kid weak because he's a 4-string guy and he doesn't see it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I got you. Let him go, just transfer and go play. You get a chance to play.
Well, one great addition that the Maryland Terrapins made was adding Steve Suter to the broadcast booth. We really appreciate your coming
Thank you,
on,
Steve.
and we're looking forward to some really brighter days down at College Park.
No
Maryland
doubt. Thanks,
football.
man. Anytime.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
to join you guys. Thank you.
All right.
Gary,
Next
you're my guy, man.
You.
Yes,
right.
Gary. Thank
Hey,
you.
Next week on Monday night, got Ben McDonald will be on with Ross Grimsley and myself. And then Wednesday night, Gary's got the night off, and I'll have Ed Hale on, the owner of the Baltimore Blast. We'll talk then, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks for tuning in.